What is up, YouTube, and welcome to Ask T&H Live. Happy Saturday. We are recording on Thursday, and we are here with Instagram Live. So let's go. We have people from Portugal, Italy, Sweden, all over the world. Cambridge, UK, bro. They start asking questions, I answer them, you see them, and let's do it. Glad Live T&H is back. Hello from Germany. Hello, been a while. Yes, it has. The way we were running it was a very inefficient and unscalable kind of format, and I think structures are really important when you're running a business. Apparently, who knew, right? Having scalable content, and the way we were doing it before was not working. So now we are. Hello from Switzerland. Hello from New Jersey. Hello from Sweden. Hello from New Jersey. Hi from France. What is up, guys? All right, London, France, Sweden. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, let's talk about the Omega Speedmaster and the situation at Theo and Harris recently. I made a video back in December about the Speedmaster and how I'm not really a big Speedmaster fan. And let me explain. Let me kind of recap that video. I am not a big vintage Speedmaster fan for a couple of reasons. One, vintage chronographs, although I love them and there's a lot of value in them and I can respect them, are not my style, always. My style is a yellow gold Datejust, or a Date 8, or a really small vintage, dress watch, or an Omega Seamaster, or a Universal Genève. I'm not really a chronograph guy. I like them, I respect them, I own them. I've bought hundreds of them, but still, it's not what I choose to wear. So fundamentally, the Speedmaster and I don't really jive. Second, I have smallish wrists, so 42 millimeters is kind of big for me. Third, the reference numbers in vintage Speedmasters are very complex, and the amount of, I don't want to say fraudulence, but the amount of fake watches out there in Speedmaster, reference world is incredible. There are so many fake or incorrect Speedmasters out there, it's unbelievable. So because I'm not an expert in them, I do not dare to venture into that territory. So I made a video last week about Omega Speedmaster, first Omega in space. And I got so much garbage from people saying, how could you betray your own opinions about the Omega Speedmaster? I did not. The first Omega in space is an awesome watch. There is no risk that I was going to buy a fake one or a non-correct one, okay? Because one, it was a newer watch, so it's very easy to reference check. Hold on. I forgot that I'm doing live. This is crazy. I'm doing a recorded video and I'm doing live, and it's I had no questions as to its authenticity. I had it fully checked out, and it was fine. It was a modern watch that was very easily checked. It was not going to dupe me. It was not going to dupe me. I was just fine. So then people, when they tried to criticize the decision to buy a Speedmaster, it made no sense. It made no sense. How could you hate the Speedmaster, go on record so many times, and now say you're going to sell one? Because it's one of the most important watches ever. That's why I'm going to list it. And because I can enjoy it objectively as a watch that has merit, not only in history but in design and in mechanical function. How could we not share that watch? So I don't know. That was kind of a Speedmaster predicament at T&H for a couple of weeks. So that was kind of crazy. What about the AP from your Irish car bomb friend? No, too funny. Yes, we right now I am wearing a vintage AP, 36 or 37 millimeters. It's a Royal Oak. It's a really beautiful watch. I'm a huge fan. Sandra Jewelry. How high are you? I'm not high. I don't even get high. The vintage trilogies are going to sell out. No, yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Massive waiting list. I totally believe that. Let's see other questions here. You're killing it, man. Great job. Thank you so much. I love Theo and Harris. So killing it is kind of, fun, and it's not easy. It's hard, but it's a pleasure to do. So how much do you think Paul Newman will sell for? Great question. And a great topic. How much do I think Paul Newman is going to sell for? And the answer is I have absolutely no idea. There is no answer. To guess on that would be ridiculous. It all depends on the buyer pool. Who's going to be there? That's it. The right guy could change the entire market forever. One guy. Or two guys that are going to bid. All you need is two guys, or a man and a woman, or two women that are going to bid and change the market forever. Forget everybody else. Forget the rest of the people. Even if 99% of the buyers would cap out at $6 million, that does not mean that two people can't drive the price to $40 million. Paul Newman has an incredible narrative. There's so much to sell there that I don't think that there's really a limit to what it can sell for. If you look at art sales, they dwarf watch sales. When a watch sells for $5 million, it's a monument. Everyone talks about it. When a piece of art sells for $5 million, nobody gives a shit. Art sells for 20, 30, 40 million. I don't know. often, dare I say often, it's not an uncommon thing. Art people aren't impressed by watch sales. So I think that it's just a matter of how long will it take and when, well, really when, are watches going to enter the realm of mass market? Every wealthy person or an enormous body of wealthy people decide, yep, this is my new thing. As soon as that happens, it's all over. It's all over. Paul Newman's Paul Newman. If you bought it for $10 million, that could be a steal. That sounds crazy, but it could be a steal. If I had $10 million, if I had a lot more than $10 million, I would be bidding on that watch. There's no question, because I know that when the watch market does explode or does have when it does reach the price, the kind of area price-wise that it deserves, you'll make millions of dollars. You know why? Well, what makes it worth less than an $80 million piece of art? Nothing. Nothing. It has such narrative. It's by the most impressive company in the luxury world. Forget watches. It was provenance. I mean, there's nothing about that watch that isn't an absolute layup for an auction house to sell for a lot of money. So no, there is no price. There is no guess. Two people. That's all you need. That's all you need. Did you spot what James Comey was wearing today? I did not spot what James Comey was wearing. I was watching James Comey, but I did not spot what he was wearing today. No. I know that Putin has quite a collection of watches, though, Pateks and all that stuff. So that's awesome. What are your thoughts on Hamilton vintage watches? Hamilton makes some incredible watches. I was just talking today with a client about the Hamilton piping rocks. These are watches that not too long ago were not worthless, but not worth a lot, a couple $100. And I just saw one trade for $4,000 yesterday. It was a model of condition, there's no question, but $4,000 for a vintage Hamilton says a lot about the future of the market. A lot about the future of the market. So, gray dial date justs. That was a question. It was more of a statement. Gray dial date justs are amazing. I'm a huge fan of date justs. Gray dials being one of my favorites and most rare. Let's do a quick wristwatch check now. Let's jump into it. I am wearing a beautiful solid gold date just with a faded out Buckley dial. You can kind of catch it there. YouTube, you can see it. It's a beautiful watch. I put it on a presidential bracelet. This watch has some serious heft. The dial is amazing. The dial is original. The way it looks now is not how it originally looked. That's the right way to say this. The dial, although completely factory, was much sharper and much more bold when it was manufactured. But because of, I suppose, faulty paint and its likelihood or its susceptibility to being faded, the sun did a number on it. The sun made this watch almost just the color. You can barely see numbers. It almost has like that Movado museum effect, which I think is really, really cool. I mean, sometimes on a Movado, but definitely on this. This is one of probably the coolest gold Rolexes I've ever owned. So what else should we jump into? Swiss watch exports continue to drop. No surprise at all. Swiss watch exports are a disaster. I was talking to somebody yesterday, someone in finance. Let's say it doesn't end. Let's say higher sales are not, that's not the way it ends. Let's say more people buying and more people spending more money is not the way that this whole, havoc ends. What are the other options? I don't know. I really don't know. How does the bleeding stop? I mean, do they spend less money on marketing and thus, lower their, bar to, basically, do they spend so much less? Do they invest so much less into their own companies that they have to sell, less watches and thus become more profitable? Kind of. It's like a really bad Band-Aid. I mean, technically it would lower their bottom line and they'd have to sell less watches to make money, but still, what a disaster. Now you're just shrinking the size. Or is there no end? But there has to be. For those of you who don't know on YouTube, maybe Swiss watch exports have been falling for 3 years. I think at least 3 years. Swiss watch exports are a disaster. They're not selling watches. I mean, China started dying as far as their purchasing was going. It was America became an emerging market, which is something we hadn't seen in a while. It's crazy. This is one of the most probably well-off industries out there, right? And now it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. Unfortunately, but yeah, I'm not involved in it. I'm not involved in it. So someone just asked, did the disaster of the non-profitability of these companies begin with watches being sold not by authorized dealers but by other people, not secondhand, firsthand, but still not by authorized dealers? Yes, No, but why is there a gray market, right? I mean, I know that one of the large reasons there's a gray market is because, dealers, authorized dealers, have to liquidate some of their collection that has never been, sold retail. So they liquidate it to people who are going to buy in bulk. They'll make a $400,000 commitment and buy a ton of new Speedmasters that have never been worn, which is great, for them because they get to make back some of the cash that they had to give Omega anyway. But it's bad because now in the future there is a secondary market. There is somewhere else for people to go. Plus, they sold them off at such low prices that the people who did not buy them from the AD that now go buy them from the secondary, retailer, quote unquote, the gray market, they can spend stupid low amounts of money. A watch that would have been purchased at an AD for 12 grand could be sold for 7 gray market. So that's a disaster. The gray market is not the cause. It was a reaction to a lack of sales, or is it a lack of sales, or is it a proportional lack of sales because the companies were making the authorized dealers buy too much? That's also a reality. It doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't selling enough. Maybe they were buying too much. The commitments got too high. From what I know, and I don't know very much about the authorized dealer relationship, but from what I do know, these companies, Omega, Richmond, and Swatch Group, they have ADs by the balls. I mean, they own them. We're telling you to make this commitment, you're going to make it. And if you don't, then you're on our shit list, and you can lose your license. I would say I don't know the details of it, but I know that these ADs are control what they can sell things as, what their marketing needs to be, what the stores need to look like, how they can sell their watches. They're controlled. They're given very little leeway, from what I know, from what I understand. So they're almost the victims in a lot of ways. I really feel like the authorized dealers have become the victims, and I feel bad because it's not really their fault. It's not really their fault. Casio is the best watch for a little bit of money. You won't find another watch that robust. Yes, I do agree. Casio is an incredibly valuable watch. For $10 or $20 or $50, you get something that you can really have a lot of fun with for a long, long time. Brands are totally out of touch with pricing. You're right, they are. Brands are, they are, out of touch. But they're more also out of touch with marketing. You're only going to get me so far by saying your watch is nice and better than the other one. There has to be narrative. That's the one thing that I think I understand better than anything else, and better than most other people. It's the one thing. It's not many things. It's just one thing. It's narrative. Narrative wins. It makes people want things because all you're doing is telling the story. You're giving them a reason to want it. If I show you something, it doesn't mean you want it. But if I tell you why it's awesome, now you do. It's not a trick. It's communication. And brands have failed time and time again to put money into communication. Putting a photo of an Omega next to George Clooney's face doesn't make me want to buy a Omega. Sorry. My story about how my grandfather owns an Omega that he kept in a sock drawer and only wore for weddings because it was that special, and growing up that watch was immaculate, and that watch was something that signified the ritzy times in his life, which were, you can count in a handful. That makes you want to buy an Omega. The story that this watch represents so much more than a watch. It represents a really working class, really hardworking blue collar guy dressing up. And this is his Sunday best. That makes you want to buy a watch because it means something to somebody, not just a photo of a watch next to some famous person's face. I mean, that I'm just not interested in that. Blogs do better at market influence than the brands. Yeah, blogs do much better influence. Yeah, but then okay, great. So yes, we can agree that blogs influence perception and sales more than brands do, but are the prices right? So what? Like, if the prices aren't right, then why does it matter? That's another thing that people lose sight of. When they're playing with corporate money in any industry, I feel at least like they lose sight of ROI. I could buy a post on a blog to watch tomorrow, or I could buy a series of posts and spend 60 grand. Does that mean I'm going to make my money back and more? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but I care about that because that's my 60 grand. It's my money. But if I had a $30 million company and some kid was managing my budget, that kid could just say, yep, I got us on a blog to watch. So what is that? Compared to these companies, I run a very, very small, watch retailer. I'm not a genius by any means. I think these are just fundamental, easy principles to understand, and these are traps that are very easy to fall into that I think that a lot of these companies have. So that sucks. You guys want to see next week's watches? Let's show you next week's watches. The watches are going to go live next Tuesday, and then we'll cut off the video. All right. First, we have a beautiful Omega, and a very early Omega. It's not even stamped Seamaster. It's a beautiful piece. The winding is terrific. I'm gonna get the date on it. I love the Dauphine hands. Jesus Christ. We're gonna get the date on it. I have to reference check the date, but as soon as that goes, then I'll have it for you. The next is a Tudor Oyster Prince. It's another beautiful freaking watch. Why I bought this watch was the alpha hands, something you do not see very often at all. This is something that when I see alpha hands, I kind of freak out. It's definitely my style. Are you an AP or Rolex guy? I'm a Rolex guy. Next is a Omega Automatic Geneve. These are some of my favorites. Really beautiful. The crisp, clean dial, stick hands. I mean, this is not an elaborate watch, which I tend to lean toward, to kind of an elaborate dress watch, but it's just perfectly clean, you know, and it's perfectly straight to the point, and that's really why I loved it. Next is an Aquastar with a beautiful Stardust dial. These watches are incredibly desired now. I can't believe it. This is a watch I actually bought back from a client, you know, just because he wanted to sell it, and I was very, very lucky to pick it up. Next is Universal Geneve, original hands, of course the original hands, but even original lumen hands, Arabic numerals all around. Big fan. Do you support Vostok watches? Yes, I do. To a degree. They're, you know, as long as they're cheap, they're good. Next is a 24-hour dial Zodiac. This is an incredible piece. Probably one of my favorite watches that we have stocked in the Theo and Harris Watch Shop in the 2 years we've been around. It's an awesome watch. So these six are the watches: Zodiac, Universal Geneve, Aquastar, Omega Geneve Automatic, Tudor Oyster Prince, and another Omega from the 50s. These are the watches that we're stocking next week. Very excited. Very, very excited. We took an alternative twist this week. There's nothing by Rolex, which is kind of funny. Every week we usually do list a Rolex, but this week I took the pathless travel kind of way. Like I said, brands like Aquastar, Universal Geneve, and Zodiac. You don't see that all that often. So it was awesome. Show the Universal Geneve, absolutely. Beautiful steel case, beautiful engraving on the back. I love the dial. It has kind of not a Stardust effect, but almost like a tiger patina. Big fan. What time do the pieces go for sale on Tuesday? Pieces usually go for sale at 7 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, but we are subject to change. I want to accommodate some West Coast people, which we're going to start doing soon. Not yet, but soon. Size in the Universal Geneve, I believe it's either a 33 or a 34. It wears very large though. Ball watches, overrated or legit? I think that ball watches are great. Would I pay retail? Absolutely not. Would I pay the stupid low prices you can fetch them for? Yes. I think that would be wise. They have, you know, American Railroad history. Are they powered by normal movements? Yes, they are. Are they altered sometimes? Not altered, modified? Yes. So I think that, you know, dollar for dollar at between $900 and $2,000. Some people would say that's a waste of money. I don't. I say if you like the design and design is important to you, then you definitely go for it. I would consider a ball. There's no question. The question was, why do you have a presidential bracelet on a Rolex Datejust? And the reason is simple. Datejusts were, not always, but largely available on presidential bracelets. This presidential bracelet was actually made for a Datejust in the early 60s. So people don't really know that usually, but it's the truth. The Jubilee was invented for the Datejust, but Datejust did have presidential bracelets on them. And I think it looks great. I think that it throws people off. If I ever got a presidential, I would consider buying it on a Jubilee to throw that kind of, you know, mismatch. Yeah, I like the mismatch of it. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching Ask T&H Live. Covered a couple topics and had a lot of fun. Let's do this again next week. How's that sound?